straight path of the sun moving over the Earth proves a flat Earth. Right? Because in both models, flat Earth and the heliocentric ball Earth model, the sun remains parallel to the ground. And I showed if it were on the ball Earth model, it would be parallel to the ground, but we would see it arcing, right? Going over the curvature. And especially when I show time-lapse like this is a good 2 hours of time-lapse. That means the sun is moving a couple thousand miles. And yet we see a dead straight path, and that's completely consistent and indicative of a flat Earth, not a ball Earth. Okay, so that I showed in the last video pretty conclusively, but now the part 2 that I promised is pretty cool too. Here we go. Not only does it prove the shape of the Earth in this regard, it also proves that these rocket launches are going nowhere. They're going down. Okay, they go up and they go down. How do I know that? Well, look at the path. See the path going down? You say, well, but P-Brain, perspective causes things to go and converge like these perspective lines or these wooden planks, right? Perspective causes everything to angle to your eye level. You know, all parallel lines and planes going away from you will converge to a point in the distance where the ground meets the sky, appears to. So what these rocket launches show that yes, it's going down, and you could attribute that to perspective, but it's curving down. Now, in both the flat Earth and the ball Earth model, the sun, as I said, is parallel to the ground. But what we visually see, and what is hijacked by the ball Earthers, is like this. You see this straight line that the sun setting down toward the ground, and it's going in a straight line? Well, they hijack that and say, well, that's what we see on a ball Earth. They have to say that. They have to hijack that. But that's clearly what we see on a flat Earth. It's kind of like what they do with motion, too. The fact that they say we're spinning and we're orbiting and we're flying through the cosmos at 1 billion miles per hour, whatever nonsense it is. They have to say, yeah, but this dead still Earth, this rock solid Earth that none of us have ever felt, and I'm not talking about movements in the ground like earthquakes and stuff. I'm saying as a general whole, the Earth as a whole, the world has never moved. It doesn't move. It's rock solid. Yet they hijacked and they co-opt that and they say, well, that's exactly what we expect to feel. We feel no movement. We expect to see no curvature. Just like Neil deGrasse said, that thing is flat. Doesn't matter how high you get. So this is how they've gaslighted us in humanity. And don't get me started on the global warming. That's another gaslighting that they're doing. And it's always follow the money, right? So anyway, back to this. So the rocket launches are following a downward track, true, but they are curving downward. And you might say, oh, they're following the curvature of the Earth. Then why isn't the sun? We see the sun here. The sun is moving thousands of miles in either the flat Earth or the ball Earth model, right? Yet no curvature. Actually, at the end, you see just before, watch this, just before it goes over the horizon, you see it lift off the line a little bit. That's completely opposite. That means, and what I think is going on there, is that it's starting to make its turn to the right. That these would be videos from inside the circle of the circuiting sun, right? That has a circuiting path, a circular path. So maybe at that point in its path, it's getting a little closer and then it rises a little bit because that's how perspective works. When something is closer to you, it'll appear higher in the sky. That same height further away looks lower in the sky. That's how perspective works. So anyway, here's a rocket launch. It's very sped up. And you can see I put little circles around the rocket to show it's a downward curving path. That means it's going down because the sun is a straight path. And not just the sun, let's look at these jet trails. Contrails / chemtrails / vapor trail, whatever you want to call them, they go straight. And most of these planes, when you see them, they're high altitude planes and they leave a straight trail. So why are these rockets curving downward? And these contrails, they're cruising altitude. So they're kind of cruising along parallel to the ground. So again, this is a huge bust. These rockets are going nowhere except maybe into the ocean. That's about it. Or wherever else they can fly them to. But that's why they go out over the ocean. And remember, the sun is traversing parallel to the ground. And yet, with perspective convergence, it causes this downward slant, but it's a straight line, right? In either model, it's parallel to the ground. The reality of what we see is a straight line. This is actual footage. This is time lapse of the sun. And when I'm putting a line on it, the path is straight. The rocket is curving down. And the rocket is said to be elevating. It's rising. It's gaining altitude as it launches away. They say, yeah, it does kind of a maneuver. It goes somewhat, kind of flattens out, but it never goes parallel to the ground, and it never comes closer to the Earth. It's always gaining altitude. So if anything, it should be an upward curve, not a downward curve. If a sun moving parallel to the ground and these jet trails produce a straight line, then this curving down can only tell you one thing. It's coming down. It's not going into space. All right, thank you so much. So there you have part 1 and part 2. Boom, boom, left and a right. Bam, bam, down goes the ball. And that's it.